Hey everyone, JP Hunt with InkSoft here, and in this video I want to introduce you to the all-new Reports workspace. Now you can access this new workspace from the left-hand side of your navigation, and here you'll select Reports. And once you make that selection, this is the workspace that will present. Now let me call out, starting at the top left, the ability to create tabs. And this is a handy way to open up different reports and maintain those reports in different tabs, so you have the ability to toggle back and forth. So this is a great way to see different views of data at different times to get the job done. So really handy way to quickly access different reports to visualize data differently. Now once you open up a tab and you're done with it, you can simply click the X icon to close those tabs. Now moving below, you'll notice that there's two main areas in your default reports workspace. You have access to default reports, and then below you'll have access to custom reports. Now custom reports are those reports that you've customized, created, and saved for future use. So let me give you a quick high-level understanding of how you'll take full advantage of the reports technology. You're always going to begin with a default report. And default reports are the most common and most important sets of data. And you always begin with a default report, and then you can then do two important things. You can customize the data that presents, and you can filter that data to really drill down on the right information to get the job done. Then you have the ability to choose to export that information. So if you want to take that information offline, you'll have the ability to export, or you'll have the ability to save. And once you save, you can of course name that report, and once you formally save, that saved report will display under custom reports. Now you'll notice that there's the ability to toggle between all custom reports. So those are all of the reports that are saved for your entire InkSoft account by all of the users in your account. You can then toggle to My Favorites. So those are the reports that you have marked as favorited. So you can quickly filter and access favorited reports. And then you can also toggle to My Reports. So those are the reports that you have in fact created for your own purposes. All right, well, with a general tour of the main workspace out of the way, let's get into the real, sort of meat of this new reporting technology. And that's really the controls and the simple tools that you can use to really filter and control the information that displays so you can take action. So what I want to do is click on the very first default report, which is Orders Summary Report. And once I make that selection, the first thing you'll notice is how fast data loads in this new reporting technology. Okay, so let's get sort of a general orientation of this workspace underway. First thing I want to call out is in the center top portion of the workspace here, you have a search dialog. And of course I can search by order ID, by customer name, email address, phone. You could enter in general broad search criteria here to find the right information. Now moving over to the right, you'll notice the ability to export. So once you have the right information that you've filtered and you've added to your report, you can export that and you can take it offline to continue to analyze or manipulate that data. You also notice a save function, and this again is the ability to save a report. You can name that report, make sure to name it something that's meaningful and that's clear, so of course you can quickly reference it. So once you enter in a custom name, you can save that report for future use. So let me now point your attention to the right-hand side where you have the ability to search and select columns that you want to display in your report. So default reports are simply just pre-selected columns. So in this case, I can choose to deselect order ID if that information is not important to me. You also have the ability to add criteria here. So if I want customer email to display here, I can make that selection. So really think of default reports as just a starting point. Here I have the ability to include or exclude information in terms of columns. Now also point out that as soon as you add these columns, you have the ability to rearrange these columns. So what I can do is I can click on store name, the store name column, and I can drag that to the left-hand side. So maybe I want store name to always be on the left. Well, you can see by dragging and dropping, I can choose to reorient these columns and reposition them to make them more logical or more meaningful to me. So on the right-hand side with columns, you can select, deselect. Mind you, there's an awful lot of criteria here. The search function is really handy. So if I type in total, for example, I can filter to see the columns that have total as part of the name. So a really quick and handy way to find the right column at the right time. Now you also see filters. This is a great way to choose to filter based on criteria, whether it contains, does not contain, equals, ends with, it's blank. So a lot of really powerful filter criteria to really, again, have granular, sort of view of data in your custom reports. So that's a quick way to sort of control what information displays and then orient that information by dragging and dropping different columns. Now, speaking of sort of arranging columns, I want to bring your attention to a few other things here. If you click on a column in the blank space, you can choose to sort by ascending or descending. Now, you also notice that a little icon presents, and if you click that icon, you get a tremendous amount of function that's available at each column. First thing I'll point out is the ability to pin a column. This is one of my favorite features. So by pinning to the left, as you scroll through the different criteria and the different data that's in a report, notice that you've pinned that column to the left. Now I'm also going to point out that you can pin multiple columns. So here I have store name and customer name are always going to be pinned to the left. So no matter, as I scroll, I can always see relevance on the left-hand side. Now, of course, you have the ability to make sure your columns are either pinned left or right or no pin. So handy way to control information and lock it or freeze it so it displays on the left or the right. Now, I'll also point out some other handy options here. The ability to auto resize. So if you have a long store name and you want to fit all of that information in, you can choose to auto resize so it all displays. You also see the ability to group, so you can choose to group all that information together. This is one of my favorite features is the row groups. So this is a really handy way to sort of compartmentalize and really organize information. So you can see as soon as I chose to group all that information, it grouped it by store, which makes it really easy to expand a store and see all the orders for that particular store. It's a really handy way to organize that information. Now you also notice on the right hand side, here's another way to control row groups. You can see where my mouse is hovering where it says row groups, and right now it says store name. Well, if I were to close that out, then it would go back to its default mode. So at any point in time, you can take any of the columns that display or that are available in reports, and you can choose to drag that and drop that into this row group area. So I can take store name, for example, I can drag that into row groups, and then again, it's going to group all that information by store name or by whatever you happen to drag into that workspace. So what I recommend is spend a little time, sort of experimenting and playing with some of this functionality, and you'll quickly learn and realize how powerful this technology is to, again, really customize the way information that displays because everybody has different preferences. Now let me give you one other example since we're working on this right-hand side once more. We've talked about row groups. As soon as you add at least one row group, you can then add values. And what values will do is present data, and you can choose to do things like average, the average order per store. So let me show you how you can take advantage of that. So what I'll do is I'll go back to search and I'll add total because I want to find the order total column. So what I can do is grab order total and I can drag it to the value function here. Now notice as I scroll over to the right, you will see that there is now the sum of the order total by store. So I can see the Circus Print Shop has done $156,000. Well, you can also click on that value function, and here I can do things like give me an average. What's the average order value? And you can see how that automatically updates. So between row groups and values, you have the ability to, again, really organize and sort information logically by store, and then also get values that are meaningful for those particular groups. So you can see I can go ahead and click X to remove values and row groups, which again takes me back into the previous state. So again, you'll find just by playing in this workspace, you can't break anything. There's no harm, no foul. In fact, after you customize a report, if you go to leave that report, you'll get a prompt, unsave changes. And if you discard your changes, nothing will be affected. So again, that's your prompt. As soon as you make at least one change, we're always going to prompt you to save your changes if you want to, in fact, create a saved report. Now, mind you, there's no limitation to custom saved reports. You can always delete a saved report. So really, you can truly never break or do anything wrong in this workspace. All right, let's give you a few other powerful examples here of some of the technology that's on offer in this new tech. Now, we've talked about this first icon here where you can again control pinning of columns and you can group by store. We also notice you have access to the columns and filters. So rather than having to go to the right hand side, you can make these decisions right from this workspace here to include or exclude certain columns, and of course introduce filtering to again control the information that displays in your report. So that's really a high-level overview of the main reporting workspace here. So once you spend time customizing your reports, again you can choose to export or save. I'll also point out that any time that you access a saved report, you can continue to make changes to the saved report. So for example, if you want to remove something and modify something, you can save that report, and that's just simply going to take the existing saved report and update it with the changes that you've reflected. So this is just the start for this new reporting technology. We're looking forward to receiving your feedback, and we'll continue to implement new features and enhancements to help you access the right data at the right time to get the job done. So make sure if you have any ideas or suggestions for improvements here, we'd love to hear from you. And if you need help, make sure to reach out to the InkSoft support team. We're happy to help you, take full advantage of the new reporting technology.